Welcome to True Wellness RX, a lifestyle prescription inspiring you to nourish, move, and connect each and every day for optimal wellness. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode on the True Wellness RX podcast. I'm your host, Hanna Schultz. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner in training, CrossFit Coach at CrossFit Mentality, nutrition coach at CODE Chiro. Our program is called CODE Fuel, and I'm also an entrepreneur starting some very exciting projects, so stay tuned. But I wanted to start off this episode, with a big thank you to all of you that allow me to hold this space and speak what's on my mind. It blows my mind that people want to listen to my rambles, and I feel so blessed that people come to these episodes seeking help and knowledge because they are interested in starting their own health journey. And that is my one and only intention for this podcast, is to be a light for you. It's not for any other motive besides that I just want to create a community of people who want to live a very healthy life and support each other. I'm just not for that kind of competitive, if this person has this thing, then I can't have it. Or only worrying about myself. I'm just not like that. I truly do care about other people. I'm an empath. I really absorb all of the energy around me. And when I feel that someone is upset, I automatically want to help them. Blessing and a curse, to be honest. But with that being said, I know I always end pretty much every episode asking you to rate, review the show, and it does only take a few seconds, and it really does make my day. So I wanted to kind of start this thing where I do a thank you to whoever has written a review to me, and I'll read, as they come up. I don't have too many to start with, but as they come up, I just want to read one for each episode as a thank you. So this first one is written by Zach C., and he says, "Such a great start for a brand new podcast. Hannah's very authentic and knowledgeable. Highly recommend for anyone trying to better themselves and their lifestyle. One of my favorite podcasts out there." So thank you, Zach, for taking your time to write a review. And yeah, this is why I'm doing it. Those kind of things make my day, honestly. And I just want to do some housekeeping before we get into today's topic. And yes, today is more of just a Hannah ramble day. So stay tuned if you love those kind of episodes. If not, then just listen to housekeeping and move on if you want to. No feelings hurt. But to start with, many of you guys listening to this probably found me through social media, my Instagram. So on my Instagram, I've been sharing a little bit about my recent health journey and seeking more help from a functional medicine doctor, Dr. Lakos. And so my trip out to California was actually to go see him. So he requires that your first visit is in person, and then after that, it's all virtual if you don't live near him. And so, yes, this was a drastic approach to go fly out to a doctor in California. But at this point in time, I am just so ready to get the help that I actually deserve and need. And I hope that kind of inspires you guys to get the help that you need. It doesn't necessarily have to be flying out to California, but I just want you to know that your own health is important, because if you don't have health, then you do not have wealth. And that is a very true story. The fact that my own health is not where I want it to be, it definitely affects the work that I put out for you guys and myself in relationships and being there for other people, that it's affected by my own health. So I went out to California, loved the doctor. It was everything I could want and more. We spent 2 hours talking about everything from my childhood all the way until now, what impacted my health. We talked so much about lifestyle, He assured me that the nutrition, we got that. We'll get on a protocol. No problem there. It was the lifestyle portion that really stood out to him. And I would agree. Like I know that that's something that I have to work on, and something that I've shared on this podcast with you guys too. And I'll get into this in a little bit, but that's kind of what inspired today. But anyways, had a blast in California. Besides that, I ended up making it just a little vacation, a little getaway with my boyfriend, Ben, who you would have heard on the podcast in the last episode. But yeah, we went surfing in Malibu and we walked around little shops, and I was in heaven because there's all these different wellness places, everything that I see on Instagram. And it's just like so cool to see the brands in person and, you know, to see the quality and experience just a different environment. Although LA was very overwhelming for me. I will say the energy is just like too much for me. I did enjoy Malibu, however. It was a little bit more laid back. It was a surfer town, which has been my number one goal for like 5 years now, is to go surfing, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a dream of being a surfer girl. And that dream is not going to stop, because when I went surfing, I had so much fun. So much fun, and I just can't believe that I was able to fully be present in the water, even catch a few waves. I did crash a few times, but I caught a few waves, which was kind of impressive for myself. And this just reminded me that, you know, you should play and you should get out of your comfort zone and try new things. Because I won't lie, before I was about to go surf, I was having so many thoughts of doubt and wanting to back out and changing my mind. And when the time came, I was like, all right, let's do it. We're doing it. I'm not turning back now, because I know when I'm 60 years old, I'm going to wish I went freaking surfing. And I'm so happy I did. So I hope this inspires you as well to just do the thing. Just do it. Whatever, you know, is on your bucket list, now is the time. Even when you're scared, that's when you know you're growing. A little ramble there. But California was great. So I'm back in town now. So a little bit more housekeeping. CODE Fuel has officially started. Super exciting. I started taking clients this week. I love them. I'm excited for their own health journeys and getting them started. So all of these sessions are in person at CODE Chiro. This is located in Mayfield. If you're not in the Cleveland area, I'm sorry. We'll just keep you updated on CODE Chiro's Instagram, because I'll be doing some videos on there of me talking and sharing different health tips and recipes. So if you're not in the Cleveland area or even Ohio, that's another way to kind of connect with me as well. But if you are in the Cleveland area, please reach out if you are looking to kind of jumpstart your own health journey, or if you just feel lost and want that guidance and want someone to hear you and actually create a customized plan for you that will get you results. That's not a fad diet, that doesn't involve massive restrictions and just, you know what I'm talking about? That's what is not going to be involved with CODE Fuel, because I've been through it all and I know what I would want to see in a nutrition program. So very excited to offer that to you guys in the Cleveland area. If you're interested, just shoot me an email at fuel@codechiro.com. I will put the link down below as well to remind you. And even if you just have questions, or if you know someone is interested, let me know and I can reach out to them personally as well. So that is a little bit of housekeeping. And then I'm still getting in some of my test results that I took while I was out there in California, getting my blood drawn, saliva, urine tests, all that. We tested everything. So I'll keep you guys updated with those results. I did get one back that was it could be a big life change if I'm reading this lab correctly, but I just hope that, I don't know. I have good feelings about where my health is headed. And even if this lab is reading what I think it is, I know that I can handle it and adjust my dietary and nutrition around it and my lifestyle to still progress. So staying positive in that realm. But anyways, let's get into today's episode. And I honestly, I don't really overthink my episodes that I'm going to be putting on the podcast. And I know a lot of people like to plan months out kind of content and topics, but I don't know, I have to wait for like that download of like, this is what you're supposed to talk about. Like sometimes these topics just like pop in my head and I'm like, okay, well, that's something that I have to share about because there is a reason why that came to me. And when I get that download, it's not like I can wait until next week to record it. It's kind of like this feeling of you need to talk about it right now because someone needs to hear it right now. So I was planning on recording this podcast episode like next week. I wasn't sure what episode it was going to be, but it's Friday. I had this idea or this download. I was like, okay, we're doing it. I don't have that much time, but that's life of Hanna anyways. So today's topic is living your life or living yoga off the mat. And what I mean by that is, raise your hand. I know I can't see it, but raise your hand if you go to yoga class as a way to escape or to recenter or just get away from life for a little bit for an hour. And then as soon as you're done with the class, you're like back into the storm and life's a mess again and you're super stressed and anxiety comes back and all your to-do lists come back. And I know that's many of you listening, if you've ever tried yoga or have considered yoga, that's why you went there. It was kind of just like when we think yoga, we think restore. We think this is something that we're doing really good for ourselves. But also when you think yoga, you think of the movement, vinyasa, also known as the asana practice. It's the movement. But we never think about at least most of us don't think about the other components of yoga. And I had a humble pie this week because I'm getting more into yoga again as part of my little protocol from my doctor to try more yoga instead of CrossFit, which we can talk about in another episode. But as I was going to my yoga class, to the studio for the very first time in a while, I went in with the intention of, okay, I'm going to finally relax during this class. I'm going to enjoy the full hour. And I did. It was lovely. I focused on my breath, the movement, corpse pose, everyone's favorite at the end. And then I left the class and I went right back into my to-do list and traffic and all these outer expectations, and my perfectionist attitude came back. And it wasn't until that night where I was reading this book about Kundalini yoga. It's called The Invincible Living, and it's by Guru Jagat. I hope I'm saying that right. Jagat is how you say it. But I was reading this, and it kind of brought me back to why I got to yoga in the first place. It wasn't the movement. It was the breath. It was the principles. It was the other limbs of yoga that not a lot of people know about. And as I am no expert yogi, definitely not, hope to be one day, but definitely not right now. This is where I kind of dove a little bit more into that after that class, because my goal when I practice yoga, the movement, asana, vinyasa, all of that, my goal is to really live yoga off the mat. So when I leave that class, it continues the rest of my day, the rest of my week. And I want to use it as a tool in life, not just for 1 hour a day, maybe once or twice a month. You know what I mean? And you guys might be thinking, what other parts of yoga are there? And so I want to start with this one limb of yoga, and it's called the Yamas. And so I might not fully pronounce all of these very correctly. I'm sure there's some yogis listening to this thinking, what is she saying? Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. But this is me just showing up as I am and giving you guys the best version of myself and being okay with mistakes. So let me just go over them in general. So the yamas, there's ahimsa, which means nonviolence, compassion, and kindness. There's satya, truth, truthfulness, and honesty. Asteya, I think it's asteya, non-stealing. This one's going to be a hard one. Brahmachara, often translated as celibacy, is more broadly defined as the conservation of vital energy in order to direct one's attention toward divine pursuits and self-knowledge. And then the last one, aparigraha, non-greed or non-hoarding. So you guys might be listening to this thinking, what does that all mean? Or, wow, I really need to do some work. And when I read these, mine was the second thought. I really need to do some work. Because although I think that I practice compassion, forgiveness, nonviolence, truthfulness, there's a lot of moments in my week, in my day, that it does not align that way, to be honest. And my goal with developing more in yoga is to incorporate these practices on the mat and off the mat to become more well-rounded, more happier, more joyful in life. And these yamas are very powerful because they are reminders for yourself, almost like intentions, to remind you that there are some guidelines to keep you on track, and also remind you what is really important in life and how you can be the best person possible and show up the way you want to show up in the world and be the change you want to be, the change in the world. And so I want to start with a few of them that really resonated with me. Honestly, all of them really did, but let's just get into a couple of them. So the first one, ahimsa, nonviolence, compassion, kindness. This one resonated with me because it's not that I'm very violent, although I do have bouts of aggression when I bottle everything up and then I just kind of burst and get really angry. And luckily my boyfriend can put up with me in those certain situations. But I'm talking more so compassion for myself. I don't know if you feel this, but I definitely know I need to share this message with someone. But having compassion for yourself is probably the number one thing you want to start with when you are headed on your health journey. Because if you don't have compassion for yourself, you're not allowing yourself grace to move along when you make mistakes. And compassion is really when you're letting go of that perfection and allowing whatever happens to happen and realizing that that's just life right now and it's okay. And also kindness towards yourself, kindness towards others is really important. And the kindness that I'm talking about is the words that we speak to each other, because that really does impact someone. I mean, just think about those children when they're growing up. If they grew up in a not very good environment and they're around all of those toxic words and energies, and they grew up with those ingrained in them, you know, those feelings of insecurity, of I'm not enough. And so your words do really impact other people. And then kindness toward yourself, you know, what do you say to yourself in the mirror every day? I guarantee it's not, oh my gosh, you're beautiful every day. I mean, if it is, that's awesome, go you. But most of us do not have those thoughts. It's usually, I am not enough, or something's wrong with me. Why did I do that? What's wrong with me? Why did I do it? All of those thoughts. And so I want this to be a little reminder that ahimsa could be a really good mantra, a really good intention for you. If you go take a yoga class, just think ahimsa, That's going to be my motto for the month. Every time I step on the mat and off the mat, ahimsa, nonviolence towards yourself, towards others. Now let's get into Satya. I hope I'm saying it right. But that's truth, truthfulness, and honesty. So how many times have you not spoken your truth? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? And denied feelings, emotions when someone asked you if you're okay? Or hiding your true self? That's not practicing Satya. Authenticity, almost. And this resonated with me because I find myself doing things that don't align with my full truth. And that is somewhat what has led me to some of these poor health situations, because I'm not fully aligned with my path. And I'm practicing Satya right now because I want to share with you that I'm not perfect, and I want to speak my truth. And that's why I have this podcast, so I can share that with you guys, but also to encourage you to share your own truth after listening to this, and maybe say what's been on your mind for a very long time, but you've been really scared to say to that someone or to yourself. Sometimes it's the truth that we're not telling ourselves that we're denying because we don't want to sit quietly and listen to it. We distract ourselves with work, with activities, with other people, with food, because we don't want to face our own truth, because we're afraid that it might hurt us, because we're scared. We're scared of the unknown, but that's only hurting us more because we're not truly growing as the person we want to be. Okay? And then let's see. I want to go over the Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya. Someone, if you're listening to this, please message me after and tell me how to say this. But this one is translated as celibacy, but it's also known as the conservation of vital energy. And this one resonated with me so much because, as you guys know, as you listen to this podcast, I am in a lot of different areas of work right now. And my passion is always health, nutrition, wellness, full circle. And although I am involved in that, it's in many different areas. For example, the CrossFit gym, working at CODE Chiro, and being an entrepreneur, and in school. Like, that's a lot of energy that I'm putting out in very many areas. And then I still find myself saying yes to things when I know those situations I don't necessarily have to partake on as well. And I want to remind you, and I know I've done an episode on this, but setting boundaries is so important. And, you might see this on the mat when someone says, go into child's pose if you're feeling fatigued, or if you don't want to do the chaturanga, just go to downward dog. And that's because they're practicing that. They're practicing this yama by conserving that vital energy when needed. And so I encourage you, when you step off the mat and enter life, you still practice that. When you feel yourself getting beat down, worn down, you don't keep going. You slow down. You tune in and figure out what is draining me, what's going to fill my cup back up. And if you're listening to this and thinking, I have no idea what even fills my cup up, what cup is Hannah even talking about? That's when we have a lot of work to do, okay? A lot of people don't even know what their hobbies are or what they enjoy to do. I mean, my clients, for example, sometimes I ask them, like, what do you enjoy to do? And they have no answer for me. And that breaks my heart because as a society, we're so ingrained in, what do you do for work? What's your career? What do you do? And when someone asks, what do? You automatically assume, oh, they're asking about my job. Because that's really what a lot of people just talk about. That small talk about your career, but they're not really asking like who you are. You are not a lawyer. You are not a nurse. You are not a salesman. You are you, your name, your person, your soul, who you are, who you show up in this world. And so I want you to think about that. Who are you? So when it comes time to kind of take in and conserve that vital energy, you know where you're going to be putting it because you know who you are. And once you know who you are, you know what you like to do and what you don't like to do. And then that's how, my friends, you set boundaries. You start having these conversations. You start practicing satya, speaking your truth through compassion by practicing ahimsa. See how they kind of all intertwine? It's a really beautiful thing, this other limb of yoga. And if this is your first time hearing all of this, I encourage you to kind of dive into it a little bit more, maybe do a little research, pick up a couple books if this really intrigues you, because I know that yoga, the physical practice, vinyasa, asana, has really helped me with my anxiety, but it's a time off the mat that I really need to work on. And I'm sure you do too, because for some reason, I wanted to share this message with you guys. So even if you don't practice the physical practice, you can still get into all of this. If going to a 1-hour studio class, a yoga studio class, isn't your jam, that's fine. You don't have to do the physical practice. There's 7 other limbs that you can dabble in. And so, yeah, I kind of want to just broaden your guys's viewpoint on the world and have you realize that there's a lot more out there that you can get involved in that's going to help your own health journey. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just nutrition. Actually, I encourage you not to just dabble in nutrition, because in reality, there's so many aspects of your health. Look at me, for example. I've dabbled so much in nutrition, and there's still places in my health that are not up to par, where I still have to do a lot of healing in. And that area is hugely in lifestyle. And so when I'm working with clients, yes, I ask about the nutrition. I ask what they eat. Of course I do. But I also want to know what's going on outside of your plate. And for me, I don't know. I believe in that full picture. And I hope you guys do too, after listening to this podcast, after listening to other interviews and all my other rambling episodes. I hope that you start to believe that it's not just one answer. It's a lot of answers. And it's not just one thing. You have to look at all of the things. And if you get overwhelmed, it's really nice to have that grounding practice. So looking at the other limbs of yoga, not just the movement part, and using that as another tool for you when the outside world just doesn't make so much sense. It's all about your own perspective. And honestly, you have full power over what you consume, whether that's the food, your environment, what you read, what you listen to. That's all your control. And I want you to fully believe that. Be grateful that you get to truly create your own reality. That's something that I'm grateful for every day, and to remind myself in bouts of anxiety that, hey, Hannah, you're creating this reality right now. If you don't like this feeling right now, you can change it. Yes, I have conversations in my head all the time. People think I'm crazy. It's fine. But I'm sharing this because, as always, I just want you guys to know that you're not alone. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, that was my whole intention for this podcast, is to build this community. So I hope one day, maybe we can do a yoga class together and we can talk about the Yamas and what Yama really resonated with you when you listen to this podcast. If I don't see you in a yoga class, feel free to shout me out on Instagram, Holistic Hannah, and let me know what Yama really resonated with you. So screenshot this podcast episode and then put the Yama that you truly resonated with. And to go above and beyond, or one or the other, write me a review. Let me know what you think. Because like I said, this is for you and only you. And I want you to share this with others that you think would resonate with it as well. But other than that, I think I'm going to leave it as a short one. Shorter. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. And stay tuned for all the other rambles. Okay? Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.